the Houston Chronicle and Wall Street Journal getting huge government contracts to build these camps. And there's been congressional hearings about it. And they have the National Emergencies Centers Act. And they're introducing legislation to be able to arrest citizens and strip them of their citizenship and their rights and hold them in detention centers. We know about black sites and ghost sites overseas. And all of this evidence is in the film Camp FEMA. It is vital that you share this link with everyone you know, and that you also support the filmmakers by getting a copy of Camp FEMA American Lockdown at campfema.com or infowars.com. And of course, you can also download it in super high quality at prisonplanet.tv. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we are turning into a high-tech police state. They are setting up all these secret police powers, and Camp FEMA American Lockdown is something every American needs to see, but also people in other parts of the world, because this global corporate system is setting up the exact same type of archipelago of secret camps all over the world. And the same producers of Camp FEMA, William Lewis and, of course, Gary Franchi, have also released Don't Tread on Me, Rise of the Republic, that shows how the states can take back our nation and the difference between a republic and a democracy. Please support the filmmakers so they can make future documentaries by getting the DVDs at infowars.com or campfema.com. Now back to Camp FEMA.
We do know that 28% of their funding comes from the Department of Homeland Security. This is not the first time that a report has been issued to Missouri law enforcement and surrounding fusion centers in other states by the MIAC Center. This right here is a stack of every single one of the MIAC reports that has been drafted. MIAC Alert, Constitution Rangers, June 7th, 2007. You've got the Black Separatism Bulletin, November 4th, 2008, American Radical Islam Converts. Here's the MIAC Strategic Report dated 11/28/2008 on the anarchist movements. You've got it on the Modern Committees of Safety, Voice of the People, or Militias in Disguise. That's January 9, 2009, which came out right before the infamous MIAC Strategic Report on the Modern Militia Movement. So they've been producing these documents for quite some time. If the people profiled in this document could be considered a potential threat to law enforcement, that means they could be considered a potential domestic terrorist. And if you have the word terrorist attached to your name, whether it is domestic or foreign, the Patriot Act still applies to you, whether you're an American citizen or not.
I remind you that before the Nazis began to persecute and incarcerate and kill and so forth the Jewish people in Germany, the first thing they did was label them as extremists and fanatics and all these kind of things and get the people conditioned against them. And then with the approbation of the general populace, they were able to unleash the fury of the state against them, and we all of course know what happened as a result of that.
Is that the face of a terrorist, that they had to know where that cash came from?
Again, it's turning more into fascism.
It's one thing for them to make sure you don't have a gun or a bomb in your pocket. It's another thing for them to not like a book.
This shows you the danger of profiling. Maybe he was profiled because he had a Ron Paul bumper sticker.
An anti-tax demonstration is scheduled for downtown's Keener Plaza April 15th. But charges are flying that one of the organizing groups is an extremist anti-government group.
The Southern Poverty Law Center and the Anti-Defamation League have their own opinions about the Constitution Party.
I think we'd consider it a fringe right-wing political party that we consider to have extremist roots. When we talk about the New World Order, it is mimicking, if not duplicating, language that comes out of organized white supremacy.
The elites have said that they want to have a final revolution. that they know the public's going to revolt against them. So that's why they've scientifically set up the surveillance grid, the cashless society. This whole continuity of government system is designed to suppress and control the people of America. Northcom, the Pentagon, the military are all announcing their number one job now is fighting the American people. They're saying the number one terror threat is veterans and gun owners and conservatives and libertarians and Ron Paul supporters. And I've been sent secret Army documents, we call the phone numbers and they're accurate and real, where I'm being watched at In the Fed protest, where we peacefully go out and demonstrate. And now even the ACLU has written letters saying, why is the Pentagon watching U.S. citizens? Why are you listing any protest as an act of terrorism? The real terrorists are the people that have hijacked our nation that would dare say the First Amendment is terrorism.
Two new reports out document an alarming rise in the number of hate groups in the United States. The Southern Poverty Law Center's intelligence report found 926 active hate groups in the country. That's up more than 50% from just 2000. Morris Dees is the founder of the Southern Poverty Law Center. He joins us from Montgomery, Alabama. Good morning, sir. Your report dovetails with a brand new report from the Department of Homeland Security claiming basically the same thing. And they say part of it is because of the election of President Obama. Other part of the responsibility goes to the deteriorating economy.
The political climate, the election of Obama, the immigration issues that have faced the United States over the last 5 to 10 years, and now especially the economy, is almost causing a resurgence of what we saw in the days of Timothy McVeigh, almost a militia movement that's being reborn in the United States.
Homeland Security says people who oppose abortion or worry about the threat of illegal aliens could pose a radical threat to America.
It warns about groups and individuals dedicated to single issues like abortion, immigration, and gun rights, and even raises a red flag about veterans returning home from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Doesn't this report seem to lump in ordinary Americans who have real concerns about stuff with nutjob racists and anti-Semites?
There's one thing that's glaringly missing here. No discussion about the real terrorists, the al-Qaeda cell groups and others that are located inside the United States.
It's all about domestic. It's not overseas.
The most dangerous.
It literally changes the entire focus for the Department of Homeland Security has been doing.
I was passed by an Oklahoma City police officer vehicle, and they slowed down, got in behind me, followed me for about 3 miles, and then pulled me over. When the officers approached my vehicle, they asked me if I knew why I was being pulled over, and I said no, I had no idea. And they said it's because of the sign in the back of your truck. And I said, my sign that says abort Obama, not the unborn. And the officers said yes, that's why. Later that afternoon, I got a call from the Secret Service. They wanted to do a quick walkthrough of my house to make sure I wasn't some kind of radical racist.
Why would Americans, under the guise and the threat of worldwide terrorism, why would they willingly give up or relinquish their rights to government when our rights did not come from government in the first place? Our rights merely came from God. They were enumerated by the government, put in the Bill of Rights as a reminder not to us, but those in power as to not violate them.
And I know the history of government, not just American government, but the history of government well enough to know that most governments acquire power and they do not like dissent. We are losing our freedoms in the United States. Most Americans do not realize that we have free speech zones in the United States. I mean, talk about an oxymoron. You know, all of the 50 states are a free speech zone. You're an American. That by definition creates a free speech zone. We have freedom of speech because we stand up and say what we think, not because the Founding Fathers ratified the First Amendment in 1791. So if we're losing the free speech zones, the governments in general throughout history have tried to quell dissent by controlling the media, which we already have in this country, and by generating fear of confrontation.
After Seattle, the feds said we can't allow protests anymore in America. It's too dangerous. That's why we're going to have free speech zones miles away from where the events